So, what do winners of prestigious yacht races at the national and world level have in common? They know how to execute all the right plays. Plays, you say? Yes, plays, just like baseball or football. Done right, and they'll almost instantly put the engaging boat ahead. Done wrong, even by a second or a fraction of a boat length, and it can cost a race or even an entire championship. You'll see some examples of this with first-hand footage. And don't be looking in the rule book for these. They're not in there. So stick around and literally see what I mean. A popular saying in yacht racing is that you actually never win a race. You only lose it by making one mistake at a time. But when you think about it, there are a lot of competitions that are this way. Take basketball, baseball, or even chess. Plays are used to enhance the odds of winning. Executing these plays skillfully within the rules that all competitions must have to be fair is what really separates the consistent winners from the occasional lucky duck. How many baseball World Series can you think of that came down to a single risky but strategic intentional walk or a desperate bunt? I can think of some. Can you? So I believe this is really relatable to yacht racing in that it's not always about pure speed. Especially in one design where differences on the boats are kept to a rigid minimum, which is one reason why I like racing one design so much. It's much more about skill and finesse, not just brute force or how much is spent on go-fast gadgets. Yeah, I've covered some of the other plays in other videos, and I'll be making more over the off-season. All on this very channel. So if you want them, please click on the subscribe, notify, and while you're at it, please the like button. Thank you very much. Today we're going to focus on one of the most important but most difficult plays to master. The leebow. Okay, I lied a little bit. I'm going to start out with a diagram just to kickstart things for the newbies, and to make some comparisons later on. The leebow play normally occurs when a port tack, and that's the giveaway, boat tacks to starboard just underneath a starboard, and that's the stand-on boat, in an attempt to deflect the wind off their sails and drop the starboard boat back. We call the boat that's getting dropped back is getting stuffed. What I'm going to say about how to execute the leebow is fairly common knowledge, and there are many racing experts that can give you some really good additional verbal information. I'll include a reference to a really good one in the comments. But what I'm going to show you differently today is to show you some actual action footage of some good and bad leebows, and we'll dissect them so that you understand why the experts say what they do. And how do we learn best? When we epically fail, of course. Okay, I'll speak for myself. Here's an example of a bad leebow play by Tally-Ho. My excuse is that I was caught off guard by the other boat from another class that we're not racing against when they cut through and distracted my view at the critical moment when the other sonar, named Gaijin by the way, and I'll use that name again, came in on starboard tack, and I chose unwisely. Even though we're slightly ahead of Gaijin after the tack, we didn't have the speed after the tack to be ahead far enough to backwind or deflect wind off of our sails onto theirs, which is the whole intent of the leebow. So note that the difference between success and failure here is only about 2 or 3 feet. And we duked it out for a bit, but overall this is a losing gambit because the boat we are both after is the one to windward here, which we are both letting get away. When this works, the boat that is getting stuffed is to windward and about half a boat to 3 boat lengths behind. Notice that the boat that we are stuffing here slowly drops back and can't point as well. This is due to the deflection of the wind off of our sails. It changes the speed and direction of the wind that they get ever so slightly. We call it giving them the gas, or getting gassed if you're on the receiving end. This gets us to the first generally accepted rule about executing the lee bow, which is you have to be able to comfortably cross the bow of the boat in order to execute this play. As I replay this bad lee bow, my mistake was being too greedy and not wanting to give up the place we were in while ignoring the fact that we were not really in a position to comfortably cross Gaijine's bow. Here's another poor lee bow, but this time when we're on the receiving end. But in this case, it's poor for another reason, and that is that the boat was too far away to make any difference. And we tacked anyways. We call it bailing out. Just to be sure though, many of our sonar class races come down to just inches at the finish line. So here's the second rule, which seems sort of obvious, but it does take a lot of practice to evaluate, and that is, don't execute this unless you are close enough, unless it really makes a difference. Every tack you make costs you about 1 to 2 boat lengths in capital to that finish line. Think of it as a risky play, such as intentionally walking a batter in baseball. The third rule that I can't really show you directly with footage because it has to do more with where you are on the race course, not the actual timing of the execution. So I'll go back to some diagrams for this one. And the rule is to remember that a lee bow will change your direction. And if you don't intend to go in that direction as part of the course, then it's best to avoid it even if you are in a good position to execute. And the reverse is also true. If the lee bow course changes goes to the side of the course that you do want to go, then that's a plus. You also want to be careful and not get blocked or sawed off, as we say, at the finish line. Take a look at this. The 360 camera lens makes us look really far apart, but we're really only about 3 boat lengths from each other. This play is worth breaking down in a whole separate video. I'll keep that in the queue for later. Suffice it to say for now, the real masters at this can not only execute single plays well, they know how to think several plays ahead. So let's sum up the rules for the lee bow play. You must be able to cross, must be close enough, and don't do it if it pushes you to a disadvantaged side of the course. Now, how to actually evaluate that and execute it yourself in varying conditions? And there are tons. The amount and variability of the wind, the weight of the boat, wave conditions, how crowded the course is, the list goes on. That's part of the allure of the sport and where the skills come in. And speaking of crowded courses, these scenarios were taken at Wayzata Yacht Club's Frostbite race, the last race of the year. Not crowded at all. Normally we have over 120 boats, and quickly growing, on the water, with over 400 participants every week. Somewhere else this would be called a major regatta, but here at Wayzata Yacht Club we call it Thursdays. But I hope this helps you visualize all of the chatter you'll hear about the leebow, and that this play can become another arrow in your quiver. The next play I'll have footage for is the jump play. But until then, watch, read, and practice up. Thanks for watching.